Hi everyone, Ellie here. I wanted to share my story with you today, a story of survival, resilience, and the incredible power of hope. It's a journey that has shaped who I am and the work I do today. I hope it resonates with you. My earliest memories of childhood in Millbrook, Alabama, are painted with a deceptive brush. On the outside, we were the Johnsons, a respectable family in a close-knit town. My father, Walter Johnson, was a well-regarded merchant, a pillar of the community, or so it seemed. But behind the closed doors of our seemingly ordinary home lurked a terrifying secret, a darkness that would steal my innocence and cast a long shadow over my young life. I was just 12 years old when the monster revealed himself. It started subtly, with touches that made my skin crawl, whispers that sent shivers down my spine. As time went on, the darkness deepened, the abuse escalating in ways that no child should ever have to endure. My father, the man who was supposed to protect me, became my greatest tormentor. Fear became my constant companion. He made sure of it. He threatened me, his voice laced with a coldness that belied his public persona. He knew my mother, Mary, was fragile, often battling her own ailments and a quiet sadness. He used her vulnerability as a weapon, telling me that if I ever dared to speak a word of what he was doing, she would suffer the consequences. So I stayed silent, trapped in a prison of terror, carrying a burden of shame and fear that was far too heavy for a child's shoulders. My mother, bless her heart, was a kind woman, but she was often lost in her own world of pain. She didn't see what was happening, or perhaps she couldn't bear to see it. Either way, I was alone, navigating this horrific reality with no one to turn to, no safe harbor in my own home. The weight of this secret pressed down on me, stealing my joy, my carefree spirit, and leaving me feeling isolated and broken. Little did I know then, but the strength to survive was slowly beginning to flicker within me, a tiny ember in the overwhelming darkness. Just when I thought the darkness couldn't deepen, it did. My younger sister, Betty, just 7 years old, also became a target of my father's cruelty. Seeing her innocent eyes filled with the same fear and confusion that haunted my own was unbearable. It ignited a fierce protectiveness within me, a primal need to shield her from the monster that lurked in our house. Betty and I became silent allies in this nightmare. We developed a secret language, a system of subtle glances and coded words to warn each other when he was near, when danger loomed. We clung to each other, finding solace and strength in our shared terror. We knew we had to be each other's keepers, our own guardians in a world that had turned against us. Then there was Sarah, our youngest sister. She was the light in our otherwise dim existence, a beacon of innocence that we desperately wanted to protect. Betty and I made a silent vow to shield her from the darkness that had consumed us. She was the one pure thing we had left, and we would do anything to keep her safe. At 14, desperation drove me to hatch a plan. I would take Betty, and we would run away to our aunt's house in Montgomery. It was a risky move, a leap of faith into the unknown, but the alternative, continuing to live under my father's tyranny, was unthinkable. We carefully planned our escape, clinging to the hope of a new beginning, a life free from fear. But our hope was short-lived. Somehow he found out. The consequences were brutal. We were dragged back home, met with a fury I had never witnessed before. The beatings were severe, leaving both of us bruised and broken, not just physically, but in spirit. Our attempt to escape resulted in even tighter control, turning our home into a veritable prison. Yet even in the face of such despair, the fire of resistance within me refused to be extinguished. I knew, deep down, that I couldn't give up. For Betty, for Sarah, and for the remnants of the girl I once was. Life under my father's oppressive rule continued, but something had shifted within me. The fear was still there, a constant undercurrent, but it was now mixed with a simmering anger, a growing resolve to fight back. I knew I couldn't physically overpower him, but perhaps I could outsmart him. I started spending time in the back of my father's store, where Mr. Tibbs, the kind old accountant, kept the books. He was a gentle soul, and he unknowingly became an unlikely ally. As I helped him with the ledgers, I began to understand the intricacies of accounting, and that's when I stumbled upon it, the 2 sets of books. One set was meticulously prepared for the authorities, painting a picture of a respectable and solvent businessman. But the other set, hidden away in a dusty drawer, told a very different story. It revealed that my father was deeply in debt to a notorious loan shark named Johnny Marks. The numbers were staggering, a testament to my father's reckless dealings and the precarious financial situation he was in. A dangerous idea began to form in my mind. This information, this secret my father was so carefully guarding, could be my weapon. It was a risky gamble, playing with fire, but the thought of protecting Sarah, who was growing older and becoming increasingly vulnerable, fueled my determination. I started formulating a plan, a desperate attempt to break free from the chains of my past and ensure my sisters had a future free from the monster we lived with. I spent countless nights piecing together the information, carefully considering every possible outcome. It was a terrifying prospect, confronting my father in such a way, but the image of Sarah's innocent smile, the memory of Betty's tear-streaked face, gave me the courage I needed. I knew I had to act. And this secret, this dangerous knowledge, was my only chance. The fear was still there, but now it was overshadowed by a fierce resolve, a motherly instinct towards my sisters that would not be denied. The tension in our house had become palpable. I could see the way my father looked at Sarah, and a cold dread would wash over me. I knew my time was running out. My plan, though risky, was the only way I could see to protect her, to protect us all. One night, I saw him heading towards Sarah's room. That was it. Something inside me snapped. I couldn't stand by and let history repeat itself. In a moment of desperate courage, fueled by years of fear and a fierce love for my sisters, I put my plan into action. Under the cover of darkness, I carefully arranged the hidden set of books and penned an anonymous letter, detailing my father's fraudulent activities and his debt to Johnny Marks. I made sure the evidence was damning, pointing directly to his deceit. It was a dangerous game I was playing, but the thought of Sarah's safety outweighed my own fear. The next morning, the house was filled with a different kind of tension. Whispers filled the air. My father was found dead in his store. The official story was a business dispute gone wrong with Johnny Marks. The town mourned the respected merchant, oblivious to the darkness he had concealed. For Betty, Sarah, and me, there was a strange mix of relief and fear. The monster was gone, but we were now alone, adrift in a world we barely understood. We had no money, no support, but then we discovered something we never knew. My father had a substantial life insurance policy. It was a strange twist of fate, a final, unexpected act that would unknowingly give us the chance we desperately needed. With the insurance money, we left Millbrook, leaving behind the shadows of our past and venturing into the unfamiliar streets of Atlanta. It was a daunting prospect, starting over with nothing but each other. But for the first time in a long time, there was a glimmer of hope on the horizon. We had survived. We were free. And we would face the future together. In Atlanta, we slowly began to rebuild our lives. I was determined to give Betty and Sarah the childhood they deserved, the one that had been stolen from us. I went back to school, driven by a hunger for knowledge and a desire to create a better future for my sisters and myself. I eventually became a teacher, finding purpose in nurturing young minds and providing a safe and supportive environment for my students. Years passed, and in Atlanta, I found love and married a wonderful man named Thomas. He became my rock, my confidant, And together, we shared a dream: to help others who had suffered as we had. We knew firsthand the devastating impact of child abuse, the long-lasting scars it leaves behind, and we knew we had to do something. That's how the New Dawn Center came to be. It started as a small haven, a safe place for young girls who had experienced the horrors of abuse. It grew, fueled by our passion and the unwavering support of our community. Over the years, the New Dawn Center has become a beacon of hope for over 1,500 girls, providing them with shelter, counseling, and the resources they need to heal and rebuild their lives. Later in life, in my 60s, I made a trip back to Millbrook. It was a difficult journey, confronting the ghosts of my past. While there, I learned something that both saddened and validated my own experience. My father had abused other women in the town. It was a stark reminder that silence protects the abuser, and that I was not alone in my suffering. Sharing my story has been a difficult but ultimately liberating experience. It's my way of breaking the silence, of showing other survivors that they are not alone, that healing is possible, and that they too can find their own new dawn. Thank you for listening to my story. It's a story of pain, but ultimately, a story of hope and the incredible resilience of the human spirit. The work we do at the Grandparent Story channel is dedicated to sharing stories like mine, stories that need to be heard. Now, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What resonated with you the most in my story? Please leave a comment below, and let's start a discussion. And if you believe in the power of sharing stories and supporting survivors, please subscribe to the Grandparent Story channel for more inspiring and important narratives.